Marvel, DC, please stop killing off superheroes! Hey, it's Jug. Ever since the death of Superman became such a nationwide phenomenon in the 90s, comic companies have been killing off and mutilating their superheroes in various events to try and recreate that major phenomenon. I mean, even within a few years of the death of Superman, Batman's back was broken by Bane, Hal Jordan became Parallax, and there was even a story proposed about Wonder Woman getting raped. But although Superman's death had become nationwide news, it was barely a year before DC brought him back from the dead and returned him to the status quo. This set a precedent that scarred the comic book industry. Since that time, characters have been killed and brought back increasingly more often with decreasing effect. For example, we saw the death and return of Captain America, the return of the Green Goblin, the death and return of Wolverine, Jean Grey and Wonder Man have both died and come back a trillion times, Red Skull keeps coming back, Thor has died, Thanos has died, Professor X has faked his death and actually died, Hal Jordan died, and they all came back. Major long dead sidekicks like Bucky and Jason Todd have also been brought back from the grave. I'm surprised they didn't resurrect Uncle Ben or Gwen, even though they've both been brought back before as clones a few times, and actually Gwen was kind of brought back for like 2 seconds in one of the most recent issues, but it was just because like the Celestial granted Peter Parker this wish for a couple seconds, and does that even count? I guess it counts. Moving on, Barry Allen was brought back from the dead, or disintegrating into the Speed Force. I guess that counts as the dead because everyone thought he was dead. Colossus, Vision, Magic, Punisher, Betty Ross, Guardian, Wally West, Supergirl, Hawkman, Damian Wayne, Tim Drake sorta, and even Batman have died and come back. Well, I guess Wally was only lost in the Speed Force for a decade, and Batman was sent through time by Darkseid's Omega Sanction, but then also the time he actually died, his body was kept alive with a lantern ring. Whatever. Are you starting to get what I mean? There's times these deaths work, like the death of Spider-Man, where Spider-Man didn't actually die, sorta, but his mind was taken over by his enemy, Dr. Octopus. But those examples feel few and far between, with many of the deaths now looking like, or actually being, cash grabs just to sell comics. And over the years, these deaths have slowly become less effective and lasted for progressively shorter amounts of time. Superman stayed dead for over a year, and sidekick characters like Bucky and Jason Todd remained dead for decades before they were actually brought back. But recently, the time between death and resurrection has been lasting much shorter. Thanos died and came back in 18 months. Magneto died in Morrison's new X-Men run, but that was retconned only 3 months later. Cable died in X-Force 28, which was meant to be an actual death for the character, but he was brought back only 17 months later through a retcon by a new writer. Hawkeye famously died in Bendis' Avengers run, but Bendis brought him back only like 10 months later in House of M. One Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, died fighting with the Justice League of America against the villain Imperiex, but was brought back less than a year later. Iron Man, Hulk, Talia al Ghul, and a whole plethora of other characters have also had notoriously short deaths. However, the most recent short death that had some comic fans in outrage was the death of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan. She was killed off in a Spider-Man comic and resurrected barely a month later. After, of course, Marvel released all the funeral and mourning tie-ins and made their money off those comics. And now, deaths are somehow becoming even less significant with mutant resurrection pods. The X-Men can bring back whoever they want from the dead whenever they want, which arguably has been handled in a cool way, but it is kind of diminishing death in comics. All of this has been leading to one thing: death losing its meaning. Companies like DC and Marvel used to have these rules, like the dead stay dead. And when this rule was followed, there were true stakes. Heroes were actually risking everything in every battle, and they might never come back. When Captain Marvel dies, he stays dead. But now, these stakes are gone. When a character dies, it just feels pointless. The character could be back in a year, a month, or even the next issue. So why does their death matter? And oftentimes, you know the character's coming back because they sell books. I guess I just wish that comics would move away from this cycle of death and then resurrection. But I don't think they ever will. But what do you think? Should comics stop killing off heroes, or does it keep things interesting? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.